Welcome to the Voice of Morgantown show. My name is Brad Smith. I'm here with Bernie Mac. We are here Monday through Friday, every weeknight right on the dot at 7 p.m. Bernie, tonight we are talking about Curt Cignetti. I think it's important that we first preface this by saying we are extremely happy with Rich Rodriguez as the head coach of the Mountaineers right now. But we had an opportunity back in 2022, 2023, 2024. I went on and on and on. I wrote articles. I posted on X about this. Curt Cignetti is the right guy at that time to hire. And West Virginia, for some reason, they said, nah, we're good. We're sticking with Neil Brown. Extremely frustrated because right now you can see that Cignetti is one of the best head coaches in the nation.
Yeah, it's a little mind-boggling, right? I mean, I posted on my X account today. We know why WVU was tied to Brown, right? I mean, Shane Lyons, we all know the story. He gave one of the worst extensions in program history to Neil Brown that really wasn't earned. And what that did was essentially tether us to Neil Brown for longer than we needed to because the buyout was pretty substantial. I mean, it was, I think 15, 16 million at one point or something like that when Cignetti first came available. But I posted on my X account today, man, like Penn State fired Franklin. That guy's going to make $50 million from just a buyout, right? Like this is Jimbo Fisher-esque. And we missed out on who's arguably one of the best coaches in the country right now because we couldn't come up with a 10, 12, $14 million buyout, which is crazy frustrating because, again, I know we were cleaning up after Lions, but Cignetti is a WVU guy, right? Like somebody posted on my account today, well, I wasn't really sure we could get him. I totally disagree with that, man. I mean, he's got big ties to our program, obviously, and I think we could have gotten him at a relatively decent price and he would have stuck around. And that's a program building long-term coach that I think would have been here long-term. So it's frustrating, man. I wish we had a time machine to go back and fix that one.
Yeah, so Cignetti, he's famous for saying, Google me, I just win. And that's absolutely true. At James Madison, he was 52-9. He's 17-2 at Indiana in the Big Ten. His only two losses are at Notre Dame and at Ohio State. I guess the question here, Bernie, is would he have won if he came to West Virginia? Would we have had that instantaneous success like he's having at Indiana?
I don't see why not. And I've thought about that a lot, right? Like whatever his recipe is, he's cooking. And I mean, the reality is the Big Ten is a tougher league than the Big 12. Yep. I mean, I know some of the ties between, JMU and his recruiting ability at Indiana and some of the things that he's been able to do, but I don't see why that success wouldn't have translated to West Virginia. And the questions that I get asked the most often on X is really, why isn't Rich Rod seeing the same success early on if Cignetti is able to do it in a tougher conference? And that's a really valid question. And I've thought about it a lot. And I think the reason Rich Rod is doing what he's doing right now, we know that Indiana obviously has a little more money to spread around, but Rich Rod, he's told you numerous times, he's huge on culture and he's not going to compromise the culture for anybody. So I think for Rich Rod, it's not just about winning quickly. It's about creating that long-term culture. And like he said in his interview the other day, if we do our jobs correctly, we're going to have kids from high school that are going to be here a long time, not tapping into the transfer portal consistently. So I think it's a different mentality of coaching, between Rich Rod and Cignetti.
Absolutely. And you touched on this just a minute ago, Bernie, but I wanted to kind of explore this a little bit more. Would he have come to West Virginia? You mentioned he had a lot of ties to WVU. He is originally from Pittsburgh. He was a quarterback for the Mountaineers back in the 70s. His dad, Frank, of course, was a head coach at WVU. There were a lot of big name schools knocking down his door to make him the next head coach. When he was having a lot of success at James Madison before Indiana did that. Do you think he would have come to WVU if we would have had a little bit more forethought and would have reached out to him after firing Neil Brown in 2022 or 2023?
Well, I mean, I could only, hypothetically put myself in the AD's position, right? And if I'm an athletic director, and Ren's one of the best, so I'm not, poo-pooing Ren here. If I'm an AD, I want to keep ties with coaches that I think I have an opportunity with down the road. And what I probably would have done is start to cultivate that relationship with Cignetti while he was at JMU and say, hey, we love you. We got to figure out a way to get you home, but we're stuck in this stupid buyout situation with Neil Brown. Keep those lines of communication open so that he feels the love and then he wants to go somewhere, he has that connection to, as opposed to just chasing dollars. And I think if we would have had that conversation earlier and started to talk about that kind of stuff, he would have come home. I don't see why he would go to an Indiana over a WVU, considering his ties to the area and the fact that he played and wore the gold and blue, right? Like, why would you not want to build the team that you held that passion for out and have them be successful? So I definitely think he could have came home, man. And it's just, again, I've said a lot about Shane Lyons on the show. I thought he did some good things, but this was like the ultimate dumb thing he ever did. That contract, I really don't see the logic in the contract. I know Shane, I actually talked to him about this when he was here. And he just said, like, hey, we had a lot of big name coaches that liked Brown or big name programs, and his name was getting tossed around a lot. And
Yeah,
I guess
we
he was
heard
going to be more successful.
we heard Kentucky, Auburn were possibilities at the time. At that time, we have to keep in mind, guys, that Neil Brown was 10-10. This was not a coach that had a lot of success at the Power Five conference, and
Right.
so I think it was naive of Shane Lyons to even think that an Auburn or a Kentucky, these big time SEC programs, would have come knocking at his door, because they just weren't. They weren't lining up to get Neil Brown.
Right. And I mean, again, that's where your instincts as an athletic director have to come into play, and your instincts on long-term viability. And I think Ren Baker, to his credit, he's looking, look what Hodge is doing right now. Everybody really complained about Ross Hodge getting hired, and we all said the same thing. You got to trust Ren, right? Like, he knows his guys. Now we've got a long-term coach. And if you look at some of the stuff, his players have said about him, that's the kind of program you want to build, right? Like, hey, this guy gave me an opportunity and I'm willing to do anything to pay him back. So I followed him here. Look at DeVries. Nobody followed DeVries, right? Yeah. So I think, again, when you look at like the AD position, you have to go with your instinct of what you're trying to have the program become and what you're trying to build. And obviously Shane Lyons had terrible instincts around Brown, and it bit us in the rear end and cost us one of the best coaches that we could have had in program history, in my opinion.
I would say we were sending out a lot of different messages on social media, on articles. This is one that we posted back in 2024. WVU graduate and former Mountaineers quarterback Curt Cignetti is about to go 5-0 in his first season at Indiana, and he has a career 123-35 record. It's now better than that. It's up in the 80% winning percentage. But we're good with what we've got. I mean, that's just so telling. That's exactly how we felt at the time, or that's certainly what it seemed like at the time, that we were just okay with a Neil Brown. Same thing here. We posted in November back in 2024. Curt Cignetti is now 9-0 in his first season at Indiana. If WVU fired Neil Brown last year and pursued Cignetti, he would absolutely be the head coach of the Mountaineers right now. Bernie, I have no doubt that, I know we can't say for sure, but I have no doubt that Cignetti would be the head coach of the Mountaineers if we fired Neil Brown on time, and if we reached out to Cignetti.
Agreed. And again, I mean, I love having Rich Rod back. I do. I really do. But at the same time, I don't like the fact we had to have Rich Rod back, if that makes sense, right? Because if Rich Rod didn't win the Conference USA championship when he did, he wouldn't have had the validity to come back. He wouldn't have had the support to come back, right? Cignetti was available well before, and he was itching to get out of JMU, and we had a really good opportunity to bring him home, and we didn't. And again, that goes back to like the Shane Lyons thing. But I absolutely think he would have been here. He would have been successful. He would have been happy here. I mean, think about it. Like, that's his stomping ground, right? To be able to plant a flag for him, it just would have been great. And I saw somebody too say like, oh, well, we couldn't afford him. You have to remember, Cignetti was not the name brand that he is now and has become, right? So I think we could have gotten him at a fairly reasonable price and probably negotiated some things in his contract to make it tenable for WVU. We just didn't do it. So it's hard, man. It's look, I wish the guy all the success in the world, but man, what a missed opportunity for us in our program. Now the guy's being tossed around as, you know, a replacement for James Franklin at PSU. And again, that's for him. Everybody's saying, well, why would you leave Indiana considering what you're building and go to Penn State? It's geography. You know, this is where he's from. It's where his family still is. It's what he's familiar with. And we could have had that at West Virginia and kept him even closer to home. I mean, Penn State to Pittsburgh is no short ride. So again, missed opportunities all around.
Yeah, the thing that I heard when Cignetti's name was being brought up is potentially a name that could replace Neil Brown if he were fired back in 2022 and 2023 was that Cignetti's just so old. You know, he's 61 years old we can't hire a guy who's 61. Guys, if you know anything about Curt Cignetti and you've watched him, this is one of the most youthful 60-year-olds I've ever seen. And again, it's just a lack of looking ahead and really seeing what things for how they should be. Curt Cignetti is absolutely had more than enough years in the tank to be hired as the Mountaineers head coach back in 2023.
Right. And I mean, look, I read a really good article about college football and how it's changing dramatically, and it has evolved aggressively over the last few years. And I thought that was really powerful because if you look, right, Jimbo Fisher's buyout was like an anomaly at Texas A&M, but now that's almost becoming the norm because there's so much money in college football. When you have a program like Penn State that fires James Franklin for $50 million and doesn't bat an eye, that shows you the emphasis and the importance of their college football program for them. If you look at Penn State, and I love it up there. I mean, I'm not too far from there. I've had to go there a bunch for work. It's a beautiful campus, really similar to ours. It's a little more spread out, but they don't really have any other like viable contending sports. They just don't, right? I can never figure out why Penn State, with all their resources, never had a great basketball team. You know, baseball's pretty decent, but football carries everything for them. And for them to be able to just fire James Franklin shows you the emphasis that they have on that program. And again, I mean, college football is now almost becoming like the NFL, but it's even worse because there's not a lot of parameters around the portal and eligibility and NIL, and they still have to be able to figure that out. So right now, until it becomes clear, you're essentially able to buy wins in college football, and it's got to change. And I know that they're trying to put together, you know, this group that's going to be able to essentially kind of be like a board for it. But I know Nick Saban's name's being tossed around a lot. We have to get some guardrails around this because it's just really getting out of control.
Yeah, the other thing I've heard is that why would Curt Cignetti have come to West Virginia? Any possibility that Indiana is a better program than WVU right now, Bernie? I saw recently that Indiana had won 4 games or less for the previous 30 years in the history of their football program. So they are not a powerhouse football program by any means, and except for the last 2 years under Cignetti. Is there any chance that Cignetti, if he had an offer to go to Indiana or to WVU, would have chosen Indiana?
No. I mean, Indiana has been irrelevant in football for years. I mean, they're known for basketball, right? So again, it's connective tissue. And when you look at the fact that Cignetti's dad, all the times he was around WVU, around the program, all that kind of stuff, and then being a former player, why would he pick Indiana? The only appeal to Indiana is being in the Big Ten. That's it, right? Like, you're in a better conference. Let's call it what it is. You're going to have more resources. You're going to be able to maybe command more money from boosters and that kind of stuff. And look, Indiana smartly made a commitment to the football program and has spent a lot of money to get him the roster that he wanted. And I'm sure that was part of the negotiations. So again, I think we really, if you think about Cignetti and you think about what could have been with him, Kendrick, Pat McAfee, I mean, man, it really could have been something special. But, we're fantasizing at this point. And it's one of those realities where you have somebody that was proven at the JMU level, similar to Troy and Neil Brown. And the difference is all he does is win, like he said. And he puts his money where his mouth is. And he came out and just kicked some butt. And now everybody's looking back and saying, man, we could have gotten Cignetti. We could have. But, the Shane Lyons disaster and that contract tethered us to Neil Brown longer than we should have, and we didn't pull the trigger to fire him 2 years too late. And we all knew that, and we said it for a long time.
I would argue that Indiana is a much, much more challenging job to win at. And if he wanted to win big, and Cignetti wants, of course, to win big, that West Virginia would give him a much, much better opportunity. Of course, Indiana will have those Big Ten resources, but beating teams like Michigan, Ohio State, Illinois, Penn State, these are some of the best teams in the nation. It's a much, much easier opportunity to go to the college football playoffs in Morgantown.
Right. And I mean, look, I think everybody forgets how impactful a long-term good coach can be. If people who followed college football for a long time, Alabama was in ruins when Nick Saban took that program over. Yeah. I mean, they were really bad. They were courting Rich Rodriguez for a while. And I mean, their program had really just kind of fell into oblivion for like 20 years after, being one of the most prominent football programs in the country for a long time with Bear Bryant and the success that they had. When you have a guy like Cignetti, if you could keep him, you're going to build a program-changing culture and coach that's going to have an impact for decades. And unfortunately, typical life of West Virginia fans, right? We missed that opportunity. I mean, this is kind of like our MO. What if we beat Pitt in 2007? What if Major Harris didn't get hurt in the championship game against Notre Dame? I mean, I swear to God, there's like a black cloud hanging over Mountaineer Nation. It's just unbelievable. But hopefully Rich Rod could change it.
To be fair, Bernie, and I think you would agree with this, is that if we had the option between Cignetti and Rich Rod back in 2022 or 2023, I personally would have gone with Rich Rod. I just feel like he would have been the right guy for the job. Cignetti had won obviously at the lower level, but he didn't win at WVU like Rich Rod had. I guess now what I want to ask to close out here, Bernie, is do you think that Rich Rod can do at WVU what Cignetti is doing at Indiana? Obviously, he didn't get it done this year yet. He's not having a great season in his first year. But let's say in year 2, year 3, year 4, what do you think?
I think he can. And I'm going to go back to your previous statement. I mean, if I would have looked at it 2 years ago and had a choice between Cignetti and Rich Rod, I would have taken Cignetti. Okay. Because Rich Rod, again, he didn't have that Conference USA title under his belt. There was a lot of, I guess, just bad sentiment within the fan base, right? And I would have tried to avoid that. Even though we love Rich Rod, there's a lot of people that are still really mad at him for leaving and going to Michigan. And I think until he starts to win again, that's not going to go away. And that's okay. I mean, we've had people on the show that have said that. So for me, I would have probably done Cignetti just as like clean slate, JMU, the ties, all that kind of stuff. Now, that being said, I do think that Rich Rod could see success at WVU, but he's also going through and completely doing something differently in the way he's building the program is not the same way that Cignetti did. And I think everybody needs to realize, like, hey, Big Ten money comes when you play in the Big Ten, you're recruiting better in the Big Ten, you have more resources in the Big Ten, you have more money in the Big Ten. So everybody needs to kind of pause and just realize how Rich Rod's trying to build the program, and he said it, and just be appreciative that that's how it's going to happen. Now, we've always seen that Rich Rod has a bad first year. By year 2, it's usually turning around. So I would expect this year is going to be a year where if they make a bowl game, it's a win. I mean, that's a long shot. But again, give the guy time to do what he needs to do. And we just got to stand by him. I'm tired of seeing all this stuff already about people poo-pooing Rich Rod. Give the guy a chance.
Absolutely agree, Bernie. It's not going to be as instant as Cignetti in Indiana, but victories are coming to Morgantown. We're very confident of that. Bernie, anything else to add before we go, buddy?
No, man. Look, I think we've got a shot this week at UCF. They're not a very good team. I think I could see us pulling off that win, gets us to 3, and then we just got to find 3 more. If they make a bowl game this year, it's a huge win. And I think, again, we just got to, stand by the team, stand by the kids, stand by the coaches, stand by the players. And, it's going to be a bumpy year, and everybody just needs to be patient. Wins are coming.
Absolutely. Guys, thank you so much for joining us again. We are here Monday through Friday, every weekday, Monday through Friday, 7 p.m. on the dot. Let's go Mountaineers.
So Morgantown, we break it first. WVU pride, we quench your thirst. No spin, all truth, loud and proud. Mountaineer nation, say it loud. The voice of Morgantown. VOM, Mountaineer pride, we go all in. First to the facts, last to the spin. It's the voice of Morgantown. Let's begin. So Morgantown, we break it first. WVU pride, we quench your thirst. No spin, all truth, loud and proud. Mountaineer nation, say it loud. The voice of Morgantown. VOM, Mountaineer pride, we go all in. First to the facts, last to the spin. It's the voice of Morgantown.